And
Recording in progress.
it's good to see everyone again. I see Adwai Krishna's with us, and Nazar from Ukraine, and Tungarasa Dasi. So we're reading from this Search for the Loving Servant, Planets of Faith. So we're reading, if you have the original book, we're on page 4 here. I'm going to switch over to my computer screen because it's easier for me to read and keep track of what I'm doing. So here we are. Well, Om Jnana-timirandasya Galanjana Shalakya Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. So here Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's continuing his discussion. And last week we were talking a lot about sacrifice, and then the idea came to tapasya. And someone asked, well, why is that not sacrifice? And in fact, those two ideas might be congruent, but we decided that normally tapasya is done for some purpose or for some end, and whereas sacrifice is a question of giving something of yourself. And the devotees liked that idea. Now we come to the problem of faith. And it's difficult for me to dive deeply into all these matters because, after all, these are very sort of abstract ideas. Faith, devotion, sacrifice. What do all these things really mean? But here, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is giving us some idea about faith, the ocean of faith. And he says, although the object of our heart's faith is infinite, still some conceptions of him have been given by the men of experience in the ocean of faith. In the ocean of faith, many have had their special experience, and that has been recorded in the scriptures. Through that, we can approach the saints who stand like lighthouses to help us cross the ocean of nescience. And I remember, I can't remember if Suvasini, I think you came with us, we visited a lighthouse in a place called Hook, which is outside of Wexford on the south coast of Ireland. And it was kind of a spooky building. This is a very tall lighthouse that looked out over the rocky Irish Sea, the rocky coast of the Irish Sea. And in terrible weather would shine a beacon of light out to the sailors and the ships who went passing through. And I asked our guide, he was a big, tall, strong Irish guard type. We asked him, are there any ghosts in this lighthouse? Because I thought he would tell us an entertaining ghost story. And he became very serious, and he said, oh no, there's no question of ghosts here. And I said, well, why not? He said, I think of George Bernard Shaw, famous Irish playwright, who once said, I can think of no structure more charitable than a lighthouse, because its only purpose is charitable. Its only purpose is to shine a light. It's altruistic. I can think of no building more altruistic than a lighthouse, because its only purpose is to send a light out into the darkness and guide the sailors. There could be no question of ghosts here. So the saints, they're like lighthouses. They shine a light out into the ocean of darkness to try to guide us home. And I noticed the other day on Facebook, somebody was commenting where a devotee had said something about Krishna consciousness being a very high conception of divinity. And immediately she got so many comments from people saying, well, don't trust the scriptures. Scriptures are written by men. And we hear this a lot. It's a very ordinary sort of a modern take that one should not trust the scriptures. One must discover truth on one's own. But this is a canard, because if you think about the general population, not everyone is interested in discovering the truth. And out of millions and millions of people who are busy with work, sex, money, defense, very few, a handful perhaps, are dedicated to trying to ferret out what is reality, what is the truth. And then again, there's so many relative truths. There's truths about, the properties of a falling object, or how to get energy from helium. There's all these different scientific truths. There's truths about relationships, how men should relate to women, how women should relate to men, how to take care of a newborn babe. And these are interesting truths. But of all the folks who have dedicated their lives to seeking out the truth, very few really are committed to a life of faith and to a life of trying to understand the supreme absolute truth. And of thousands of such truth seekers, some of them are adepts and have been inspired by divinity or illuminated by divinity in such a way that they can record their experience. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj says here, the object of our heart's faith is infinite. Who can understand God? Still, some conceptions of him have been given by the men of experience in the ocean of faith. So in any ocean, there's different sections, to extend the metaphor. There may be an area where there's no wind, and a sailor will wait for months to be able to sail away on the wind. The doldrums. There may be a Sargasso Sea where your ship is frozen in seaweed. There may be icebergs that lock your ship in frozen ice and crush it. So in the ocean of faith, many have had their special experiences. But of these, some were capable of recording that in the scriptures. And there's different scriptures for different purposes and different levels of faith. So one should not look askance at scripture and think, oh, well, this is all superficial because, after all, it has been written by men or women. Because those who are involved in the development of scriptures are very special souls. And so what they've written down there is not to be taken lightly. These scriptures and the saints who represent them stand as lighthouses to help us cross the ocean of nations. So this book is like that. It's like a beam of light. Even if you don't read it, just have it in your bookshelf. It will emit a sweet vibration inviting you to join the dance of Sri Krishna. And then Sri Ramarsh continues. He says, but that must be bona fide and not merely a concoction or an imitation. It may also be possible to imitate the real thing by taking our mundane experience and thrusting it into the world of faith. So we must approach that plane very carefully through the line of reliable saints. So then again, what exactly are we to refer to? What kind of scripture? Written by whom? What kind of saints? And Srila Sri Ramarsh has remarked that it may seem an impossible task, but your sincerity will guide you. He says we must be careful to know the qualifications of a real saint. Of course, we described this in great detail when we read through the book Sri Guru and His Grace. Their symptoms are given in the scriptures, and who is a disciple, and what should be his attitude. All these things are given in the scriptures. So, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, this is a threefold sort of tripod upon which your faith can stand. It's very difficult for your faith to stand alone. We seek out others who have a similar faith, and those who are experts in the faith, and those who have written down their particular experiences within the faith. And through this sort of triangulation, we can go deeper. Srila Sri Ramarsh says, and faith is required in order to work in that substantial conscious world, which is subjective. So, faith, or in the Sanskrit, Shraddha, it's a substantial kind of vision. Just like I have these eyeglasses. I can see without them, but my vision is blurry. But the eyeglasses help me to focus. So faith is like that. Faith helps you focus on divinity, on God, in our case, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And when you develop the eyes of faith, that vision that comes from faith should guide you further towards that substantial conscious world, which is subjective. Subjective means it's something that can only be perceived in a particular way. In fact, all that we know really is subjective. It's based on our perception. It's a phenomenon that we try to decode with our perception. And there's a Sanskrit shloka that says, Yata drishti, tata shrishti. It means how you see things is the way it is. As is one's vision, so is one's world. And so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us, Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam chamai pashyati. One should see me in everything, and everything in me. So according to one's particular kind of subjective vision, one sees the world. A businessman sees money. A terrible earthquake shakes all the buildings in a coastal fishing village to rubble. And everyone living there sees disaster. But a businessman sees opportunity. In the rubble, he thinks, well, now all these poor people are gone. I can construct an Olympic village and bring the Olympics here. Or I can construct tourist hotels, and the tourists will love the pristine beach now that there's no more people. So in disaster, a businessman sees business. A mother sees only her child in everything because her child is everything to her. Her child is more important than her mother, her father, her sister, her brother, her husband. And so everything in the world appears to her as a way to help and mother her child. A lover sees his beloved in everything. If a man is in love, he walks through a crowd and sees a girl with red hair. He thinks, oh, that's her. That's the girl with the red hair. He doesn't notice the thousands of people coming in and out of the train station. And in fact, it may not even be her, but he sees the beloved everywhere. So Krishna's devotees, they see Krishna everywhere. And this is advancement in Krishna consciousness, one who sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything in Krishna. He says, this is the most important thing that we have to remember. The infinite is subjective. It can guide us and be affectionate to us. And we see this idea of objective and subjective described a lot in Srila Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. And he describes the jiva as the subject and God himself as the super subject. So in terms of the super subject, everything is his object. In Sanskrit, we say Purush and Prakriti. Purush means the subject or the super subject, and Prakriti is his energy. In terms of the Jiva soul, we think, I am the Lord of all I survey. I am the subject, and all this is my Prakriti. This is my world to play with. I'm the center of my own universe. But we're reminded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super subject, and we are his energy. So Srila Sri Ramakrishna says we have to remember the infinite is subjective. It can guide us and be affectionate to us. All these things are to be reckoned with. He can guide us. The revealed truth stands on this foundation. So this is a point, again, he makes over and over. We may feel that we're lost in the universe and no direction is home, but Krishna can guide us. One man argued to Srila Sri Ramakrishna, the infinite cannot be known, because if we could know the infinite, we would be another infinite. If you could know the infinite, you would be another infinite. But Srila Sri Ramakrishna points out, he says, no, if the infinite cannot make himself known, then that would be to limit the infinite. And then he is not infinite. So, enfolded within the very nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth is the ability to reveal himself to us. And so he's saying, he can guide us. The revealed truth stands on this foundation. We began the book with a discussion of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Amnaya Tattva. And the idea is that God can reveal himself. There is such a thing as revealed truth, which is interesting because we think we will use the scientific method to discover everything. And with our analysis, we will approach the very nature of reality. But reality is so subtle that when we try to dissect it with reason and scientific method, reality disappears. It's impossible to track down. It's impossible to pin down the soul on a dissecting table and then, with the use of reason and knowledge, rip it apart, tear it into small fragments and put it under the microscope. But, on the other hand, we need not rely entirely on the limited concept of ratiocination, or ferreting out the truth through reason. Because this is not the only way that we know things. We can also know things through faith. And faith has a way of connecting with revealed truth, which comes from above. So, Srila Sri Ramar says, the revealed truth stands on this foundation. We cannot approach Krishna by the ascending method, but he can descend to our level to make himself known. So this is Srila Sri Ramar reiterating a fundamental axiomatic truth of the Vaishnava conception. We must understand this very fundamental and substantial point. He can come to us, and only through faith can we come to him. So then the idea of faith, as I said before, it's like a telescope that we can see the infinite when the infinite reveals himself. Shraddha, faith, is more important than calculative truth. The example of great souls is more valuable to us than our human calculation. The external, material, physical truth does not have much value. Rather, it is a false attitude of mind, which is very strong. That physical truth should not be given greater respect than the intuitive practices of pure devotees. Rather, the intuition of a pure devotee should be given preference to the calculations of truth made by ordinary men. So, for example, our understanding of Atma, or consciousness, or the inner self, this is an axiomatic truth. This is something that is known, felt, and experienced by pure devotees on an intuitive level. And this should be given preference to the sort of discussions given in academic circles about how cellular tissue develops into mind. Faith has no connection with the so-called reality of this world. It is completely independent. There's a world which is guided only by faith. Shraddha Mayam Lokan. Faith is everything there, and it is infinite and all-accommodating. In the world of faith, everything may be true by the sweet will of the Lord. And here, in the land of death, calculation is inconclusive and destructive in its ultimate goal. It has no ultimate value. It should be rejected. So calculation, it's an interesting idea, but we must remember that calculation moves forward through negation. Neti, neti. We say not this, not this, not this. So we arrive at conclusions. We think through analogies, and then we come to conclusions by discarding non-viable possibilities. So if I have a problem, for example, my computer broke. I had a problem with my computer. So I'm trying to understand, well, what is this? Is it the software? Is it the hardware? So I have to run 115 different kinds of analysis in the software to discover, why is this crashing? What happened? Is it the sector on my boot drive? Is it an electric connection? Is it a power connection? And so on. And gradually I have to discount one thing after the next to come to the solution. And this is the nature of calculation. But it's inconclusive and destructive in its ultimate goal, because if you try to find out the self through calculation, you can say, well, okay, as Descartes did. He said, who am I? Am I a Frenchman? No, because I can change my passport. I can change my nationality, so I'm not a Frenchman. Am I a man or a woman? Well, Descartes didn't have access to the Mahabharata, but in the Mahabharata there's the story of Shikandi, who is the remote cause of Bhishma's demise. And Shikandi is, as we know, is Amba in her previous life, a woman. So the soul that inhabits Amba or Shikandi, is that male or female? No. The male or female aspect is merely a shell. Am I the body then? No. Am I my hand or my nose or my eye? No. So you can eliminate not this, not that, not nationality, not education, not a language, not the body. But through negation, you cannot come to the reality of the eternal soul. You'll simply go on negating. You'll finally come to the intellect and say, well, I think, therefore I am. But maybe what happens if I'm not thinking? Do I cease to exist? And one ends in a sort of quantum universe of infinite negation without ever really arriving at the nature of the soul. Or one may come to the conclusion of nihilism and complete destruction. So, Srila Sri Ramakrishna says this sort of thinking, it has no ultimate value. It should be rejected. The knowledge that materialists come under the fallible calculation of exploiting souls has no value whatsoever. So for the exploiting soul, all his computer knowledge, all his artificial intelligence, all scientific knowledge is dedicated towards what? Towards exploitation. How can I make a machine that goes faster or is louder or kills more people? This is my goal. And so I'm calculating everything from operating systems to the lift of a propeller in a flying machine. But it's all about exploitation. It has no value whatsoever. But in the world of the infinite, faith is the only standard by which everything moves. And then here, Srila Sri Ramakrishna quotes a nice verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Sayam samutirya sudushtaram dyuman bhavarnavam bhimam abhadra sorida bhavat padam boruha navamatrate nidhaya jata sadanugraho bhavan. Here, Srimad Bhagavatam, this is from the 10th canto, 2nd chapter. Here, Srimad Bhagavatam says that just as in the vast ocean, when nothing else can be seen, the compass is the only guide. So in the world of the infinite, our only guide is the footsteps of those great souls who have traveled on the path of faith. So in his very coherent argument, he comes back to his original point, which was Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru will guide us. He's telling us, in this ocean, our only guide are the great souls. And he used the example of a compass, he used the example of a lighthouse. But what he's saying here is, you and I are not the most enlightened people on the planet. There are those who are more enlightened. We live in a world of gradation. There's always something higher. So why not seek out the higher souls and try to get some light from them? Our only guide is the footsteps of those great souls who have traveled on the path of faith. The way has been marked by the holy footsteps of those who've gone to the highest quarter. That is our only hope. Yudhishthira Maharaj also says that the real secret is concealed in the hearts of saints, just as treasure is hidden in a mysterious cave. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. So this is a secret. And I used to wonder, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, it says, Rajaguyam, that Krishna consciousness, it's a secret thing. It's not for everyone. It's a secret thing. But I wondered, why does he say that? Here it is published in this book. This book has been translated into so many languages. It's been distributed all over the world. Why would anyone consider the Bhagavad Gita to be a big secret? Well, it's an open secret. It's right out there for everyone to see. But you can't see it because you're busy seeing with the eyes of the businessman, with the eyes of the womanizer, with the eyes of a gardener or a carpenter. A carpenter sees problems that have to do with nails and hammers and saws. He can't see the hidden knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And that's why it's a secret. It's there. It's there for everybody. It's been published millions of times. You can see it. But people tell you, well, this is not important. Don't look over here. Look over there. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, he says, the real secret is concealed in the hearts of saints as treasure, as hidden in a mysterious cave. The broad line towards the truth is chalked out by those who are going to the divine world. And that is our surest guide. All other methods of guidance may be eliminated because calculation is fallible. Of course, it depends on what you want. If you're thinking, well, what I want is money, that's fine. Study money. There's a character in one of Shakespeare's plays who falls in love with Desdemona, but he's desperate because he sees that Desdemona loves Othello. So he goes to Iago, and he says, what do I do? And Iago says repeatedly, again and again, he says, get money in thy purse. Do what you need to do, but get money in thy purse. So if that's your motivation, if that's your faith, well then you can follow that. But in terms of your divine spiritual life, that's valueless. None of us is here forever. You can work really hard and make a lot of money and spend years doing it. And then suddenly, when you have the golden treasure, it will fall through your hands and death will take you to the next world. So why not seek out a higher truth But Srila Sri Rama says your calculation won't work. All your other methods of guidance that don't have to do with faith may be eliminated because calculation is fallible. So this is a very important point. You can study it. How is it possible that calculation is fallible? Everything is based on calculation now, and the calculations have been summed up into algorithms, and the algorithms drive every screen that we stare at during the day as the algorithms are probing us and trying to figure out how to monetize our habits, our interests, our loves and hates. But this is not guidance. Guidance comes from the absolute infinite, and his guidance may come in any form, anywhere, any time. So that's another thing. You have to be on your toes. You have to be willing and ready to take that guidance when you see it. That's the story of the Christian who's drowning, and he says, "Oh God, help me, send me a sign." And a boat comes past to save him. But he wants a miracle from God, and he prays to God, "Help me, God," as the boat passes him by. And a helicopter flies overhead and lowers its rope. And he says, "Oh God, help me, please, send me a miracle." And the helicopter flies away, and the man is praying and praying, and God says, "Well, wait a minute. I sent you a boat and a helicopter. What more do you want?" Guidance comes from the absolute infinite, and his guidance may come in any form, anywhere, any time. With this broad view, we should realize the meaning of Vaikunta. Vaikunta means without limitation. It is as if we are in a boat floating on the infinite ocean. Many things may come to help or hinder us, but our only optimistic good faith may be our guide, our Guru Dev. The guide is Sri Guru. Nridekam adyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam mayana kulena nabhasvataritam puman bhavadbim natared sa'atmaha. This is from the 11th canto, the teachings of Uddhava. The Bhagavatam says, "In the infinite ocean, we've boarded our small boat, the human form of life, and our destination is uncertain and inconceivable. But it is conceivable to our Gurudev, Guru Karnadharam. Our Guru is our guide, the captain of the boat, and we must progress with sincere faith. We're trying to cross a horrible ocean with huge waves and dangerous sharks and whales swallowing whales. It is full of danger. The guidance of saints is our only hope. We must depend on them. They stand like lighthouses in the infinite ocean to guide us to the land of faith. Faith means hope in the infinite. Vaikunta means infinite, and Shraddha means good faith. Just as there is a place called the Cape of Good Hope, Shraddha means surcharged with good hope in the infinite. Vaikunta is infinite. And if we wish to draw the attention of the infinite, the only way open to us is Shraddha. So again, he's stressing here the idea of faith. By Shraddha alone, we can attract the infinite. And when Shraddha develops a divine form, after progressing through bhav, ecstatic emotion, Shraddha becomes prem, divine love. So this progression is described by Srila Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sidhu. Adyo Shraddha tata sadhu sangha. First there's faith, then there's good association of saints. Finally, one develops divine emotion and prem. Columbus set sail, and after a long voyage, finally arrived in America. He reached the land of good hope. In the same way, with Shraddha, faith, we may, after crossing Vaikuntha, arrive in the highest plane of the spiritual cosmos. Shraddha is our light in the darkness. So I'm going to stop there. I'm a little tired from reading. So what sayest thou? Do you believe in faith? Do you believe in Shraddha? I hope so. I think that's why we're here. Everyone has a little bit of Shraddha. We're all I've said before, we're like tiny sparks. That, for me, Srila Prabhupada, he was like the sun. He brought light. Bhaktivedanta Swami brought light into my life. The first time I read the Bhagavad Gita as it is, I thought, wow, this is the truth. I've never seen anything like this. You know, I lived on a monastery in the desert when I was a little boy. I was about 10 years old. I was very impressed by the Catholic Benedictine monks and how they had so much austerity and tapasya and dedicated themselves. But when I began probing the philosophy, I found there was no good explanation for Atma. What is the soul? Is the soul created? Is it eternal? What do we understand about God? And all these things were a mystery. Nobody could really help me out with that. And so I lived the profligate life of a teenager. But when I was in my 20s, I rediscovered the Bhagavad Gita, actually. The first time I saw the devotees, my mother took us to a Broadway show called Hair, which was popular because in the 60s everyone was a hippie and they had big hair. So it was a strange work, but at the end of the play, all the dancers and singers came out and chanted Hare Krishna. And I thought, wow, this is cool. And then when I walked outside the theater with my mother, there were the devotees. They were capitalizing, I suppose, on the popularity of the play, but they were there selling their incense and Back to Godhead magazines and Bhagavad Gitas. A line of about 20 saffron-clad devotees with shaved heads, all brilliant and effulgent, and playing a thunderous kirtan on mridanga and kartals. And I was completely blown away. Someone gave me a Back to Godhead magazine. I think I bought a Bhagavad Gita. And I began reading that when I was 15 or 16. But it finally hit me in my 20s when I had looked at a lot of different things and I thought, this is it. I don't see anything else. I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot. But I have never seen anything like the kind of faith that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada radiated. It says there's 3 different kinds of devotees. There are devotees whose faith is soft, and they're always taking the holy name. And then, no, there's sometimes, they go to the temple, and sometimes they take the holy name. Kanishta means soft. And then there's devotees who are always taking the holy name of Krishna. They study the scriptures, and they can even talk about it. But the highest kind of devotee is the kind of devotee that you see that person and you want to chant Hare Krishna. You see that person and you're inspired to take the holy name. That's the highest kind of devotee. And such was Bhaktivedanta Swami. He was like the sun. He shined light into everyone's life. But then he went away. And we were looking in the darkness, what do we do now? Where do we go for comfort, for shelter? We found Srila Sridhar Maharaj. For us, he was like the moon, a beautiful, cool light. If you study the teachings and lectures of Srila Sridhar Maharaj are so beautiful. His words are so carefully chosen. His metaphors are to the point. He makes a point. He gives illustrations. He wraps it up. He goes to his next point. Sitting at his feet. There's, I have a couple of photos there, but not many. But you can see sitting on that platform facing the sun as it goes down over the Ganges and talking to 4 or 5 different people. I was fortunate enough to be in that group. And that's the real meaning of Upanishad. It means to sit at the feet of the master. So he was like the moon, a cool and brilliant light, different from the sun. And then he disappeared. But we had Govinda Maharaj, who's like all the stars in heaven, all the constellations. And now it's us. It's you and me. It's Hari Priya and Nazar and, Advai Krishna and Pranashish. All those great souls who are trying to continue. But we're just like little sparks. It's hard to get much light out of a spark. But if the little sparks come together like this in the Sangha, and we can create an ember, and from the ember a bit of fire, and then pretty soon we get a big bonfire going, and we can get enough light and heat to make it through the night. So that's my take on faith. And I said, I hope you have some faith. I know you wouldn't be here if you didn't. So thank you all very much for joining us this morning. And if you're listening out there in internet land, say a prayer for our souls, and let's try to keep the little fire going. All right? Thank you very much. I'm going to say Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, all glories to all the devotees. And hope to see you again next Sunday. I have to go. All right? Bye-bye.